G'day. Last year I took some 69 flights, stayed in 30 plus hotels, rented about 17 different rental cars, and that takes quite a bit of effort to plan and keep in order. So in this video, let me share with you some of the secrets I use when I'm travelling around the world. Travelling with Formula One means we're travelling in peak season the whole year. We're getting reamed every single weekend of the year. So when do I book my travel? Well, normally for hotels, I'll book at the moment the schedule is released. And sometimes I get some advanced warning, in which case I'll go and book hotels at the weekends that I think these races are going to be on. Cancelable, of course, and I'll normally get a better rate than once those dates are announced. Yes, booking refundable flights and hotels is more expensive, but I don't mind paying that premium for the flexibility. It's worth noting too that some hotels don't release their rooms a year in advance. I'll give you an example. The Hyatt in Mexico only a couple of weeks ago got on to me and said, right, do you want to book? We've just opened up our bookings. Another example, the Austin Hyatt. Well, I couldn't find any rooms available direct with the hotel last year, but I searched hotels.com and there you go. And I found rooms available at a pretty reasonable rate. When I say reasonable, maybe double the normal rate. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a reasonable rate, but a lot of these cities are charging 3 to 5 times what they'd normally charge just because of the huge demand for hotels and flights for Formula One. So typically, I'll fly in on a Wednesday to a race city and then fly out to the next city on a Monday, and then I'll have a couple of free days in that next city. But if there is a long break, I can certainly come back to Australia and I'll get 7 days back here at home. I'm a member of a number of airlines. Probably my biggest is Qantas, and I have a couple of million points with them, but I'm also a member of Emirates, Singapore Airlines, and a few others. I'm also fortunate that my business generates quite a few points by paying for a lot of its expenses on credit cards, so I tend to use those points for a lot of my flights. I never use them for economy flights. They're very poor value, but on business and first class, it's a huge saving on what you'd pay if you were to pay cash. Being a platinum member of Qantas also gets me some other benefits. For instance, if I fly business with Emirates, I can use the first class lounge in Dubai, and that is a real bonus and something I'm always careful to make sure I keep my platinum status. With those points, I often find it's easy to use them outside of Australia with the partner airlines, and that's often the case in the US and in Europe. For some of the shorter flights in Europe, I'll book late, take economy seats. It's only an hour or 2 hour flights, and if you get the front row seat, it's more than serviceable, and who needs a great meal on a short flight? But on longer flights, I'll book first or business, and this year I'm excited about going 2 new airlines. Finnair, for one, they've got a brilliant new business class seat, I'm told, and I'm going Swissair first class, and I've seen some good reviews about that. So you will be joining me on those flights, because as you know, I do a travel video, well, not every single time I fly, but certainly most, that lets you in on some of the behind the scenes of what it's like to travel so many different airlines in some pretty changing times. And harking back to that Swissair flight, not only did I book first class, I booked the flight that had the 6-hour layover in Zurich instead of the 2-hour. Why? Well, they've got this superb lounge that allows me to go outside onto a deck, and with my long lens I can shoot planes taking off and landing with no glass in between. And it's such a lovely, calm airport that I thought, right, I'm going to go and spend a little bit of time in this airport, and you will be seeing the results of that on that particular travel video. What is my favourite seat? Well, I think that would be the Qatar Q suites in business and the Emirates first class seats. So do I book direct with airlines or go through an agent? No, never go through a travel agent. But I do use Google Flights a lot. That's a great place to bundle different airlines for a fare. And the important thing is that when Google Flights does it and you say have 2 or 3 different airlines, you don't have to get your baggage off to change flights. And that's a very important consideration. Because if you were to book a single fare from Perth to Singapore and then another one independently Singapore to London, you're going to have to get your luggage off in Singapore and recheck it. Pain in the bum. Don't do it. Do I travel by train? Yeah. A couple of times. Last year I did Bologna to Rome, first class, stunning. I'd recommend that to all of you. And the other train I almost always take is the Shinkansen from either Osaka or Tokyo to Nagoya, then the local train to Suzuka. Cars, yes, I need rental cars throughout the year, and typically I'll use rentalcars.com, but I'll often check with Avis and other companies to make sure that I'm getting a reasonably good rate. What I like about rentalcars.com is you can see all of your rentals in a row, and you can see, is there a hole there? Am I missing something? You don't have to look at so many different rental car companies. Oh, one-way rentals. yes, often you'll pay a premium. So what I did going back last year is instead of me flying into Belgium and out of Amsterdam, I flew into Amsterdam, hired the car, and it was an extra hour drive to Spa, stayed in Spa, and then drove the car back to Amsterdam to fly out. That saved me about a $200 one-way fee for essentially an hour extra of driving. This year I needed a car from central London, and when I did my research I was looking at something like 1,100 Aussie dollars for 5 days, but if I picked it up at Heathrow it was about half the price. I thought, that is bizarre. Well worth checking, that sort of thing. But then I decided, no, I'll look at Virtuo. Now, I don't get paid by Virtuo, but somebody told me about it. You book them online, you never see anyone, you don't have to meet a person, the car's just left at a certain spot. Maybe in the future, that's the way to go. Because standing in a queue, and I've seen some shockers, where was that one in Austria, I think it was? Something like about 50 people waiting to pick up a car. That's 2 hours. You've done all the paperwork. Why are these companies so inefficient? That's cars. What about hotels? Something like 30 hotels I stayed at last year and a couple of Airbnbs. I typically use hotels.com because, once again, like rental cars, you get to see all of your bookings in a row so you can see any gaps, and I think it's every 10th night is virtually free. So you're building up this discount by booking night after night. Unfortunately, with the popularity of Formula One, though, a lot of the really good hotels don't make their rooms available via their website or on any third-party booking site because they go and do deals with the likes of tour companies, F1 Experiences, Formula One themselves. Another thing to consider when booking hotel rooms is room size. I don't want an 18 square metre room. I'd rather a 33 square metre room. Or in the Middle East, you can get as large as 40 or 50 square metres. Your 18s, that's more for big cities, London, New York, etc. Do I book breakfast at the hotel? Some hotels, which have reasonable offerings for breakfast, I'll take, particularly with night races, because we can eat up until about 10 o'clock in the morning. But if we're leaving early, say 6:30 to get through a track at 7:30, breakfast is wasted for me. What price range are these hotels that I'm staying at? I think the most I've paid this year is $2,100 US for a night, and the cheapest is $80 US. That's an Airbnb, and the other one is a 5-star hotel on the track. Best hotel I'll stay at this year, I'm guessing the Shangri-La in Saudi Arabia, in Jeddah. And the least impressive, probably the Media Hotel in Japan. Clean and tidy, but very small rooms and very much a local hotel. Now, somebody asked me the other day, what's the best hotel I've stayed at ever with Formula One, and the worst? I'd say the best is the Marriott in Baku. Huge rooms, delightful staff. And the worst is also a hotel in Baku. It is this one. And I arrived after probably a long flight from Australia, 7 a.m. in the morning, check into this soulless lobby, go up to the room, open the door, it's 35 degrees in the room, so they turn the aircon on. The porter leaves, and then I can smell this diesel. So I ring down and say, I want another room. They get me another room. It's 35 degrees. There's black stains on the carpet in that room and this strong smell of what I thought was diesel. So I said, right, I want another room. And on the third try, it was exactly the same with the heat and the smell.
I don't think you'd even notice the smell after a while.
So I just said, nah, out of here. I went to the Boulevard, which is on the beach, and it was sensational. Airbnbs, yeah, I stay in a few. This year I'll be staying one in Monza, Imola, Montreal, Austria, Mexico, and then on top of that I get a family stay in Melbourne. But what I love about an Airbnb is I can get my washing done, and that's often tricky and crazily expensive in hotels. What about the media hotels, I hear you cry? Yes, they are offered in a lot of cities, typically average sort of properties, maybe 3-star, not terribly close to the track, but there's often a media shuttle, and that's the case in Japan at Suzuka. You walk out the door, the media shuttle's there, it drops you off at the media centre, and that has a definite plus about it. Travelling for Formula One is a long and arduous process, especially when you come from Australia. And I was away in 2021 for 300 nights. That was an expensive year. This year won't be anything like that, but it's still always a challenge to get everything right travel-wise. And of course, if you happen to own a lovely hotel near the track and want to do a deal with me on some great social media exposure, I'd love to hear from you. That said, it's time for you to hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't done so, and become a member. You'll find all of my digital images at ProStar Pics, and I would put up probably 1,500 images per race that you can own for personal or editorial use, and you can head to kimellman.com for F1 wall art, my photo books, signed driver prints and team principles, and a whole range of merchandise. And for my best images live from the track and during the week, go to Instagram and search at Kim Ellman. Thanks for watching, and stay passionate.
Oh my God.